Thank you. The member for Don Valley East, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to rise in the House and talk about many of the challenges that are facing workers in Ontario right now. And specifically, we face before us Bill 149, euphemistically known as the Working for Workers Act, a title which I cannot think of as being a better definition of an oxymoron, because every opportunity that this government has had to genuinely, honestly work for workers, they have turned it down. And I'll touch on all of those opportunities in just a moment. As I peruse the bill, I see that we have a number of suggestions that are intended to help workers, and largely I don't see anything bad, but they are predominantly just window dressing on the broader root challenges that workers are facing. For example, we have some adjustments around digital platform workers. We have some changes to the Employment Standards Act, which allow for greater clarity around tips and job postings. There are a few things on fair access to regulated professions, and then finally some things on WSIB. And frankly, at face value, they may seem to look okay, but when you actually dig down into the details and specifically look at the history of this government, it is very clear that the members across are doing anything but working for workers. And so, for example, we have in Schedule 2, we have a provision that any publicly posted job advertising has to indicate the salary or the salary range. Well, the reality is that's all fair and good, but if the wages that are getting posted are absolutely unacceptable, as we have seen under the wage capping legislation of Bill 124 that has driven nurses, driven PSWs, driven healthcare workers, educators, and teachers out of the healthcare system, the only thing that posting their wages on a public advertisement does is tells them not even to bother applying. And so again, this is simply window dressing without addressing the root challenges that people are facing. This government says that they're working for workers. This is also the same legislators who last fall tried to implement Bill 28, which trampled on collective bargaining rights. A government that genuinely cared would not dream of doing such a thing. Yet they have. They only backed down from that under overwhelming pressure from the public. We were on the verge of a literal general strike. When offered the opportunity to regulate temporary nursing agencies, merely to take aim at the most predatory and offensive recruiting practices that poach nurses out of public hospitals, this government said no. Just earlier this evening, we considered private members' legislation to introduce anti-scab to protect scab workers. This government voted against that time and time again. Given the opportunity to do the right thing, this government actually refuses to work for workers. Which brings me to Schedule 3, this supposed attempt to allow people who are trained abroad to be able to get credentialed more easily here in Ontario. And on this, I point members to the Ministry of Health's attempt to accelerate credentialing of foreign-trained doctors. In August 2022, a proposal came out that they would implement the Practice Ready Assessment Program. A program, mind you, that was introduced and ready to go in 2018 that this government cancelled. But fine, they realized the error of their ways and brought that back, or proposed to bring that back in August 2022. The reality is that despite re-announcing it over and over and over again in question period, in press releases and media opportunities, we have yet to see the Practice Ready Assessment Program in action, and now there is a lackluster attempt to credential 50 internationally trained doctors by the end of 2024. Alberta is doing 100 every year, and it's a province significantly smaller in terms of population. So if this government actually cared about accelerating credentialing of professionals who are trained abroad, they would focus less on Schedule 3 and more on things like the Practice Ready Assessment Program. And finally, this brings me to Schedule 4, the supposed improvements to the Workplace Safety and Insurance Act. And of course, I support ensuring that esophageal cancer is covered for firefighters. That's important. But when given the opportunity with Private Members Bill 54 to ensure that PSWs and DSWs working in retirement homes also shared protections under the Workers' Safety and Insurance Board plan. They voted that down. And let's take this back even further. When there have been opportunities to improve cancer care for Ontarians, for example, by funding take-home cancer drugs, no action on that. When given the opportunity to accelerate accelerate review of breakthrough cancer drugs so that people with metastatic cancers in Ontario can get better care, futuristic care, as quickly as possible. This government it refuses to act on that. And so my overall message is acknowledging that there are a few very superficial things that have merit in this bill. This government has demonstrated time and time again it does not work for workers. And if it wants to be serious about that, I've enumerated a number of things that they need to be taking urgent action on. I thank you for your time and attention.
Questions? I have the member from Hastings, Lennox, and Addington, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. And I will start my comment with the idea that the previous two speakers had said that this debate was enjoying some congeniality, some good comment back and forth. And I do appreciate the member from the Beaches, East York, I think I got that right, comments on the things that she liked about the bill. So my question falls to the member from Don Valley East. He suggests that the title of the bill, Working for Workers, is somehow inappropriate. In fact, he called it window dressing. And my question, Speaker, is that given the 15 years of your party's decimating employment in this province, the 300,000 jobs that were lost, and the turnaround that this government in the last 5 years has brought 700,000 new jobs to the province, don't you think that working for workers includes making sure that Ontarians actually have a job available to them?
The member from Don Valley East, please.
Thank you very much. Well, I mean, to that I would point to the exodus of healthcare workers, the exodus of paramedics, PSWs, nurses out of healthcare that stand in stark contrast to the proposition that we've heard from the member across. The reality is that genuinely working for workers means WSIB protections for firefighters, and I applaud the effort to add coverage for esophageal cancer. That's a good thing. But extending that WSIB protection to everybody, making sure that wages are fair and transparent for everybody, making sure that we never attempt to trample on collective bargaining rights. These are all things that would demonstrate a genuine intention to work for workers, and the recent history under this government has shown that intention is not there.
Thank you. Questions? The member from... Yes. University Rosedale. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you to the member for Beaches East York, as well as the member for Don Valley East, for your speech this evening. I was particularly struck by the comments you were making about healthcare workers and what can be done to improve the working conditions of healthcare workers. Could you elaborate for us again? What are some useful things the government can do to improve working conditions for healthcare workers?
To the question, please. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question. You know, we face in the wake of the pandemic and in the wake of wages that have not even come close to keeping up with the pace of inflation. We face massive burnout and mental health challenges with our healthcare workers, and they deserve the kind of mental health supports that allow them to recover from that. Healthcare workers currently face profound moral injury from having had to ration care over the last few years because there simply hasn't been enough to go around. And then finally, in the wake of all of that, we see patients, sadly, who are angrier than ever before, and we see increased rates of workplace violence in hospitals and clinics. And efforts need to be made to address all of those things. That comes in the way of ensuring that there are those mental health supports, ensuring that we increase the number of healthcare workers to alleviate a lot of that burnout, and then implementing protections that people cannot demonstrate.
Thank you for that response. Thank you. Questions? The member from Richmond Hill, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the member from Don Valley East. I'm sure, well, from what I'm hearing, I really hope that you will support this bill. And one thing that really touched me about this bill is how we do for firefighters. They are really heroes who risk their lives and then their service for us. And I honestly hope that all members in both sides of the aisle approve and support this bill. If in the event you are not supporting this bill, does it mean that you are going to make it more difficult for firefighting and their families to get the support they need when they are facing the illnesses?
The member from Don Valley East.
Thank you, sir. I would never want to make things more difficult for firefighters. What I'm saying in my remarks tonight is that firefighters can't be the only ones that we care about. Let's take the example of another kind of frontline hero. We saw PSWs, personal support workers, who are working during the pandemic at long-term care homes such as Orchard Villa. They contracted COVID. They were in close, prolonged contact with COVID patients, did not have adequate PPE, and they literally died. And they are not covered by WSIB right now. And when given the opportunity in this House to vote to extend WSIB to them, the members in this House did not vote to do so. And so what I'm saying is, of course, we should support firefighters, but let's support all workers. And Schedule 4 has an opportunity to extend WSIB coverage to many workers who don't have that.
Thank you for that response.